Hello, my beautiful people. So, let's talk about Spider-Man No Way Home. Easily the most anticipated movie of the year. And I'm here to say that this movie did not live up to the hype. It surpassed it. This movie is so freaking good. Holy crap. Basically, after the events of Spider-Man Far From Home, where Mysterio outed Spider-Man as Peter Parker and now suddenly has framed him for murder, everybody is on Peter's tail. So he goes to Doctor Strange in hopes of making it seem like everyone forgot about Spider-Man killing Mysterio or forgot who Spider-Man really is. But the spell goes wrong, and now villains from other Spider-Man movies in the past are now in the MCU with some various multiversal shenanigans. Can Spider-Man stop these villains and bring them to their proper realities? Well, let's find out. The hype around this movie was so freaking intense. There was hype around what the title would be, because they didn't reveal the title for quite a while. There was hype around when the trailer would come out because it was August and we didn't have a trailer yet for a movie that was supposed to release in December. And there was hype about when the poster would come out because the first trailer was already released and there wasn't even a teaser poster. And I didn't even mention all the speculation that went into the stuff that's actually in the film. Specifically, who was gonna die and who was gonna be in it. And within the first 10 minutes of the film, we get one of those confirmed. So, yeah, spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home if you haven't seen it already. This is your spoiler warning. Go away. Spoilers if you haven't seen the film, just leave. Go. Bye-bye. Within the first 10 minutes, Matt Murdock, played by Charlie Cox, is Peter Parker's lawyer. He's barely in the movie, really. He only has a cameo in that one scene where somebody is throwing a brick into Peter's apartment, and Matt catches it without even looking at it because of that radar sense. And Peter is like, "How'd you do that?" Now, I really hope that we will see more Charlie Cox as Daredevil in the future. Now, does his appearance in this movie canonize the Netflix shows? I don't know. This could just as easily be a variant of Matt. But it is possible that it is the same Matt from the Netflix show because 1, he has his powers, and 2, it's the same actor. But regardless on if the Netflix shows are canon or not, it's still awesome to see Matt Murdock in the MCU officially now. I mean, is it any coincidence that this movie was released the exact same week as Hawkeye Episode 5, which had a cameo from the Kingpin, played by Vincent D'Onofrio? They're planning to do something with Daredevil and the other Netflix characters eventually. Whether it's a direct continuation from their shows or just something completely new, I don't know. We're all just gonna have to wait and see, but back to the movie. What I love about this movie is that with all of the characters, all of the multiversal shenanigans, and all of the craziness in this film is Peter Parker's story at its center. There's no villain who really just has a grudge against Tony Stark. These villains are after Spider-Man. And this movie is about his struggles and his responsibilities and him officially becoming Spider-Man in this movie. Not Spider-Boy or not Spider-Teen or Tony Stark Jr. I just hit the mic there. I apologize. He becomes Spider-Man in this movie, the Peter Parker that we all know and love, who has to make serious sacrifices for the greater good. Because with great power, there must also come great responsibility. And I also love how they work in that phrase here in the film. Because with Uncle Ben seemingly not existing in this universe, instead we have Aunt May die. Now, this is different from the various Uncle Ben deaths that we've seen before. Because where those deaths came from Peter just not using his powers correctly and letting the bad guys get away, Aunt May's death in this movie ultimately comes from Peter doing the right thing and helping to fix these bad guys. Which, at its core, is what Spider-Man is all about. And also, Peter pretty much has no alive relatives. Aunt May was essentially his mom. And the fact that she's dead means that Peter pretty much has nothing but his friends and Happy. But we'll get to that in a little bit. But for now, let's talk about the action. Oh my boy, the action in this movie is spectacular. See what I did there? This movie has got to be some of the best Spider-Man action that I've ever seen in the MCU. For me, it's very hard to describe action scenes, aside from just saying, oh, it looks really, really cool. But with this movie, every single action scene is different and distinct from each other to the point where I can describe them very well. To the Doc Ock bridge scene with all the different tentacles all over the place. To the fight with the Sandman and Electro with all the sparks and bits of sands everywhere. To the mirror dimension scene with Doctor Strange. That was really cool. And of course, the final battle freaking slaps. Speaking of Doctor Strange, I thought that walking into this movie, he was going to be in the movie a little too much. Basically, play another, Tony Stark or Nick Fury. We gotta prove that Spider-Man's in the MCU by shoehorning in a bunch of recognizable MCU characters. And they all have to serve as mentors to Peter. But Doctor Strange is in the movie as much as he really needs to be. And as I said before, you do get some of the cool visual elements that you get whenever you have that character in your movie. Speaking of the characters are also fantastic. Essentially, these movies have been a coming-of-age story for Peter Parker. And his growth throughout all of his appearances is so prevalent in this film. He has become a man at this point. I didn't really care much for MJ in the first two movies, but I really got interested in her character by this film. Zendaya just does such a good job as Michelle. Of course, the actors that play Ned and Happy and Aunt May are also really great. They just refuse to kill off Happy at this point. He was supposed to die in Iron Man 3. Then he looked like he was going to die in this movie. But he survived. Jon Favreau's literally just been doing these movies since the first Iron Man. It's almost like, how long can we keep Happy in these movies? Will he continue to play a role in the future Spider-Man movies? I don't know, probably not, because he doesn't know who Peter is. Will we see Happy again? I don't know. And the Sinister Five, we'll get to that later. The acting from all of them are really, really good, except for the Lizard for some reason. Yeah, I wasn't really a big fan of the Lizard in this movie, but then again, the Lizard was kinda lame in The Amazing Spider-Man. I almost forgot that the Lizard was even in this movie. He has nothing to do. He doesn't even get his own fight with Spider-Man. Peter doesn't catch the Lizard, Doctor Strange does that, so... And the big highlights from the villains have got to be Alfred Molina as Doc Ock, Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin, and Jamie Foxx as Electro. I am shocked with how good Jamie Foxx was as Electro in this. Pun not intended. Everything was improved on from his character in Amazing Spider-Man 2. To his costume, to his face, to his acting, to his writing, everything was just improved on. Alfred Molina did a really good job as always. His relationship with Peter is pretty likable. And Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, mwah, chef's kiss. I also love his new costume, which is very comic accurate. But he destroyed the Power Rangers mask! That's why it was barely in the trailers. You destroyed it! You destroyed the Power Rangers mask! Well, I guess it's better than Harry in TASM 2. And speaking of TASM 2... one of the big things that people have been speculating from the very beginning when they first heard that this was going to be a multiverse movie was, will we see Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield reprise their roles as Peter Parker? And they did it. They're in the movie. And is everything I could have wanted as a Spider-Man fan. The acting from Tobey Maguire and especially Andrew Garfield is so good. And their characters were written fantastically. And the dialogue between Tobey, Andrew, and Tom, it makes this movie. Like, I could have a whole movie that's just the three Spider-Men interacting with each other. To Tom and Andrew being amazed by Tobey Maguire's organic web shooters. To Andrew helping Tobey with his back problems. To them just talking about their villains. To Andrew say to the three of them, I love you guys. You're like the brothers I've never had. Oh my god, I love seeing these three interact with each other. And the theater when Andrew Garfield shows up on screen for the very first time, priceless. It wasn't a big roar, but a grand majority of people were just like, yeah! And I must say, in that theater there were probably a lot of stained pants. But probably my favorite interaction between the three of them was this. Tobey Maguire says, oh, I fought an alien that's this big black gooey liquid. Tom Holland says, ooh, I fought an alien that's a big mean purple dude. And Andrew Garfield's like, I fought a Russian dude in a rhino costume. And the other Spider-Man is like, hey, what? Come on, man, you're great. You're cool. You are amazing. And when MJ falls off of the Statue of Liberty and Tom Holland doesn't catch her, but Andrew Garfield does, that was so satisfying. And the interactions that Tobey and Andrew have with their villains, that was fantastic. Doc Ock was like, Peter, you're all grown up. How have you been? And Electro was like, to his Peter, you know, I thought you'd be a black guy. I hope there's a black Spider-Man out there. I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing. Yeah. One of these Spider-Men better be in the sequel. I mean, Across the Spider-Verse is going to have 2 parts, so anything could happen in that much movie. And then we have the very end of the movie, which opens a lot of questions. In order to stop all these villains from coming into their universe, Peter makes Doctor Strange put out a spell so that everybody forgets who Peter Parker is. Not so that everyone forgets that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, but who Peter Parker, the person, is. So Peter says a goodbye to Doctor Strange, Tobey and Andrew, and MJ and Ned, and it's very emotional. They're crying, I'm crying, the theater's crying, the guy in the projector booth is crying, Stan Lee and Steve Ditko are crying from the grave. Who am I kidding? They probably are. And the whole world forgets who Peter Parker is. Peter then goes to Aunt May's grave, pays his respect, and moves into his own crummy apartment where he makes his homemade Spider-Man costume, which is the most comic accurate costume that we've ever seen in the MCU, and it looks fantastic. And the movie ends with Peter swinging across Queens as Spider-Man. This opens the door for so much more because Peter Parker is starting fresh. Everybody forgot who he is, and the possibilities for stories are endless. Here's what I want to go down. Peter goes to community college because that's really all he can afford, being broke. While he's at college, he meets some new friends. Say maybe, I don't know, Harry Osborn. And, maybe he meets a new girl and that becomes his girlfriend. Maybe they'll go for Gwen Stacy, but personally, I would like it to be Felicia Hardy because I really want to see Black Cat in live action. And in order to pay his rent, he goes and gets a job as a photographer for the Daily Bugle. I almost said Daily Planet. This is not Superman. And since he pretty much lost all contact with the Avengers because they forgot who he is, he eventually makes new superhero friends, such as the street hero Daredevil, who was previously his lawyer in another life. But wait, there's also a mid-credit scene. It's Eddie Brock from the Venom movies. Yeah, during the post-credit scene for Venom Let There Be Carnage, Venom is teleported into the MCU because of the Doctor Strange spell. He's in a bar learning about the different superheroes in this universe, and then he is teleported away because, the spell was changed. But he leaves behind a piece of the symbiote. So the symbiote is now in the MCU. And I do believe that this will be what the next Spider-Man movie will be. Peter Parker going to college. Meets some new friends there, like Harry Osborn or Felicia Hardy, maybe even Gwen Stacy, I don't know. Gets a job at the Daily Bugle with his co-worker Eddie Brock. And he finds this mysterious black goo that gets him this brand new black suit. And the symbiote does a bunch of weird stuff to him, eventually leading him to do some dark things, and by the end of the movie he gets it off, but it lands on Eddie Brock, leaving the door open to the MCU's version of Venom. That's what I want to happen. But you know that Sony wants it to be Tom Holland versus Tom Hardy, which is fine, I guess. But I'd much rather prefer the MCU have its own Venom, because I'm really not a fan of the Venom movies. I also don't really see this having an effect on the very next movie, but eventually, I want Spider-Man to do a team-up with Deadpool. Spider-Man and Deadpool have a very interesting relationship in the comics, and Deadpool is coming to the MCU. We know this. He will be played by Ryan Reynolds, and hopefully he'll show up in Multiverse of Madness. Technically, he's already in the MCU, officially kinda, because Fox did release a promotional video for Free Guy where Deadpool reacted to the trailer for Free Guy with Korg, so maybe Deadpool can officially be in the MCU sooner than we think. Regardless, I want Spider-Man / Deadpool movie to happen. I also want a Spider-Man / Daredevil movie to happen. Just make Spider-Man team up with the characters that we actually want to see him team up with, So after watching No Way Home, I'm more interested in the future of Spider-Man, not the past. Because in case you're unaware, Disney Plus is releasing a brand new MCU Spider-Man series in the future called Spider-Man Freshman Year. It's an animated prequel series to the MCU Spider-Man. God, I don't want a Spider-Man prequel right now. I want to move forward into Tom Holland's story, not backwards to what we already know. We can kind of put the pieces together. He gets bitten by a spider. He fights crime around Queens in a very, very crappy homemade Spider-Man costume for a few months. And then Tony Stark figures out that he's Spider-Man and gives him this brand new suit to help him fight in Civil War. We don't need a whole series about this. Now, if Spider-Man Freshman Year is actually a sequel series, and it's about Peter's freshman year of community college, then that would be interesting. It could explore the ideas that I just expressed. But if it's a prequel series, which it has been confirmed to be, then I'm not interested in this show. But it's Spider-Man animation, so it can't be that bad, right? Especially when the recent Spider-Man cartoons, such as Into the Spider-Verse, is freaking fantastic. So if Spider-Man Freshman Year can be as good as Into the Spider-Verse, which I know it will be, at the most it could be on the ranks of like the 90s series, then maybe it won't be entirely worthless. And now let's talk about the end credits scene, which, for the first time since Captain America the First Avenger, the end credits scene is actually a full-on teaser trailer to the next movie. Because yes, we got a flat-out teaser trailer for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness at the end of this film. Holy crap. This trailer's freaking awesome. This film looks way more darker compared to the first film, and I'm really liking the style that Sam Raimi is going for. Obviously, getting back into his horror roots for this one, but I don't think I'd call this movie a flat-out horror film. I'm probably gonna have to wait and see a full trailer to judge that, or see the movie for myself. But we do get to see some pretty cool images in this trailer. For starters, we get a very brief snippet of Miss America in the film. She was confirmed to be in the movie a while back, but we got a very brief snippet of her in this trailer, and her costume looks really good so far. Obviously, Wanda Maximoff is in this costume, addressing the points that happened in WandaVision. And she's even wearing her costume from WandaVision, and it looks amazing. Now, regarding Wanda in this movie and what ended in WandaVision, I have a couple theories. Will Wanda actually find alternate universe versions of her children in this film? Because at the very end of WandaVision, we do see Wanda trying to temper into the multiverse a little bit, and we do hear her kids cry out for help. But are those actually her kids calling for help? Is the main villain of the film just messing with her? And also, White Vision at the end of WandaVision is still roaming around, so will White Vision be in Multiverse of Madness? He wasn't in this trailer, but we're just going to have to wait and see to find out. Maybe he'll be in a future trailer, maybe not. But I don't know. We're just going to have to wait for the movie. But perhaps the biggest reveal is the very end, where the evil Doctor Strange from the What If episode shows up. Technically, it doesn't look exactly like him, but it's the evil Doctor Strange from What If. That's flat out him. Which is very weird, because in the final episode of What If, the evil Doctor Strange is kind of not that evil, kind of working alongside the Watcher. So if this is the same evil Doctor Strange, I am very curious to see, well, he looks like the bad guy in this. Is he going to help out our Doctor Strange? What's going on? And speaking of What If, this movie is going to be all about the multiverse. Spider-Man No Way Home tampered with it a little bit, but this film will be full on about the multiverse. Multiverse is in the title, so will the Watcher be in this movie? It's going to be a golden missed opportunity if he's not. And this will be our first time seeing Uatu the Watcher specifically in live action. We've seen previous Watchers in the MCU in live action before, most notably during the Stan Lee cameo in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. But will Uatu be in this movie? That is the question. There's also more rumors about multiversal versions of characters appearing in this film. Toby and Andrew, again, which I don't think they're going to show up. Maybe Tobey Maguire, because it is a Sam Raimi movie, and he also directed the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, but I don't think we're going to see those guys in this film. We saw them in the last movie, and that was more of a Spider-Man thing, but some people are thinking that Loki, Sylvie, and Mobius are going to show up, which it would kind of make sense, but I believe that their stories will continue in Season 2 of Loki. A lot of people think that some original variants of characters, such as, say, Tom Cruise as Tony Stark, will show up. Now, I do believe that is going to happen. I think it will be very fun to see some brand new variant versions of MCU characters. Whether we see Tom Cruise as Tony Stark specifically, that's still up in the air. But someone who I am very excited to hopefully see in this movie is Deadpool. Because logistically, this is the perfect way to introduce Deadpool into the MCU. I mean, it's the perfect way to introduce the mutants into the MCU. This movie could do what WandaVision couldn't and fully introduce the mutants into the MCU. Now, I want Deadpool to show up in this movie as much as the next guy, but will it happen? I don't know. We're gonna have to wait till May to find out. And overall, guys, that is Spider-Man No Way Home. Easily the best MCU Spider-Man movie. I don't know if it's the best Spider-Man movie period, but it is definitely my personal favorite MCU movie. It delivered everything that I wanted. Huge thanks to the filmmakers for making this movie possible, and especially thanks to the late great creators of Spider-Man, Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, for making all of the Spider-Man movies a reality to begin with. If they were around, they would be very proud of what this film accomplished. But anyway, guys, that's all for this video. What do you guys think of Spider-Man No Way Home? Please let me know in the comments below. And are you excited for the future of Peter Parker in the MCU, or even Doctor Strange in the MCU, because there was a Multiverse of Madness teaser at the very end of it? Please let me know in the comments below. Also, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified of when future videos are uploaded. I got more videos planned for the future, and I'll see you later. Bye!